So we had the new additions of next generation IR missiles to the game last patch, but for AA systems obviously, right? But in my opinion, right now is the perfect time for us to actually get the next generation of IR missiles, the IRIS-Ts and Python 4s and AIM-9Xs of the world into the air combat now, right? So this is the perfect time and right now. First of all, we're going to talk about why, and then we still need two things though to make it work. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that kind of idea at the end of the video. Okay, so first of all, why do we actually need these missiles right now? Well, the first thing, I already mentioned this in a couple of videos, but I really wanted to make a whole video about this, is that we are getting closer and closer to the 5th generation jets, right? And with that in mind, you have to think that the 5th generations will have every single thing in kind of a next generation feeling, like compared to the 4.5 or 4th generation jets that we have. So every single system will be a little bit better or a whole lot better than the 4th generations that we have. Some of the systems used on those will be still used in the 5th, like for example the AESA Raiders and stuff. But overall, the whole package of the aircraft will do a very big step up. And one of the main problems that we always had is that in the game in general, is that sometimes, maybe too many times, we are not really prepared for these jumps in technology. And why is that? Well, if you really look into the past of War Thunder, you will see that every single time we had these jumps before, the game was really ready for them. And I think this is changing a bit. We're getting these technologies before in the older vehicles, then we get the next one. This is starting to happen, which I think it's a great idea. It makes for when we get the next generation, the vehicles are much more balanced, right? And the idea here is the same. Before we start to get to those aircraft that will have basically everything to be better than the 4th generations that we have right now, we shall have some of these technologies from 5th generations to come to the 4th generations. Like I said, we are already having this. For example, the AESA technology, PESA technology, the MALS, overall, the countermeasure system, everything with that is going to be in a 5th generation jet. Even stealth is already being prepared with the 117, with the Comanche, to when we have the 5th generations, everything with that is kind of working in the game. But when it comes to the missiles, we are a little bit of a step behind with Raider, a little bit, but we are getting there. I mean, the C5 just got added, the R77-1 is there, so I think it's okay on that regard. But on the IR part, it's where we are kind of really behind, because if we really think about it, we are still using 80s missiles on 2000s vehicles, right? Which is fine if we wouldn't get anything very close in the future to be added that it's better than these 2000 aircraft. But we are getting that, and it's going to be kind of soon. Like next year, I would imagine, on the very top, right? So, on the very max, if you will. So, honestly, we need that to be fixed before we see 5th generations, because these older missiles, most of them cannot even be added to some of these, 5th generations. And even then, the performance of these aircraft will make it so that it's so good that we need something to be able to kill it without having to rely on only guns, right? The performance of these aircraft are really a step up, which means these IR missiles will need to do a little bit more than what they are doing. Okay, this is only my opinion. It's going to be way easier to balance 5th generations, especially against the 4th generations, if we already start to get these missiles. We already started with the ground vehicle, so the groundwork is there, literally, right? But I think we need to do the step up for balancing it out with the 4.5 generation top tier. Then we can have a very balanced addition of the 5th generation. So this is my idea, okay? Two things that I think we still need before that happens. It needs to happen soon, in my opinion, but we still need two things. The first thing is the good old BR decompression. We are still very reliant on 14.0s being the top tier. What that means is that we are still seeing 80s vehicles, which is okay for the most part, but 80s vehicles in 12.7, 13.0 BR facing 13.7s and 14.0s that are way too stronger, way stronger, right? Now with the new radar missiles, this becomes a little bit more apparent. Imagine facing with an 80s 13.0, something that is firing AIM-120C5s the way that an Eurofighter does, right? So it's kind of scary. Plus, with the idea that we would have more and more advanced missiles like that, the new IR missiles, we would need even more, of a difference between an 80s and a 2000s vehicle, right? So, in my opinion, decompression is necessary on the very least for 14.3, okay? On the very least. The second thing is one that I wanted to show to you guys in the game. Well, I gotta be honest with you guys, I was recording this video thinking that the R73 was still bugged, spinning around when you would pull too many off-board angles to the missile, but I couldn't make it actually to do that anymore, so I guess it just flew under my radar, and I will probably do a video about this. I already posted that because this video will come out later, but yeah, they fixed that, so we only need one thing, to be honest, more decompression. I still believe, for example, the Seekers themselves can be used in the way that they are being used with the ground forces, I don't think an imaging infrared system would be too wise to add right now, although it would be more realistic, but it would be way too hard to avoid those missiles. So with the dual IRCCM, it's actually a pretty good, and I understand why they would add it like that, right? So yeah, I think we just need a little bit more decompression maybe for the aircraft that will receive those missiles. What are those missiles? Of course, I'm talking about AIM-9Xs, IRIS-Ts, Python 4s, a new version of the R73, maybe the prototype R73M, or the R74M, something like that. AM-5s, PL-10s even, and other missiles like that. There's so many Mika NGs and Mika IRs, maybe not the NG Mika EM, right? The Mika IR on the very least. Stuff like that, I think, should be added way before we see the 5th generation jets, so that we have time for balancing before we get and to do the big step of adding these aircraft to the game, okay? So I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know in the comments what is your opinion about this. And yeah, I see you guys on the next one. So thank you all the patrons and members. And just a small thing for the real fans out there. I'm taking 3 days off. So the posts are going to be, I'm posting them in the same time that I normally do. But just think that I'm kind of AFK. So if any news happens on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I will not be here to do any videos, okay? So I see you guys on the next one, and bye.